Hi guys, so today's video is going to be a non-spoiler book review for A Season of Storms by Andrzej Sapkowski. I was sent an ARC of this book by Orbit. It's just this review is coming late because right around the time I got an ARC for it is when my dad was in a really bad car accident. But now that he's doing so much better, I'm finally able to sit down and chat with you guys about this book. Regardless of whether you're completely new to the Witcher world or your experience, you've read all the Witcher books except for this one, the placement as far as where to read this one in the reading order can be a bit confusing. I am going to be making an updated reading order for the Witcher series that includes Season of Storms in it, but the easiest answer I can give you guys is that the events in this book, which this book is technically a prequel, it came out after all the other books, but the events in this one take place before the very first short story in The Last Wish. It doesn't come before all of the short stories in The Last Wish though, so you are going to see characters like Dandelion, Yennefer. That said, I was super excited to get more of the Witcher world. I, generally speaking, don't love prequels. I don't love collections of short stories and things like that, but Andrzej Sapkowski is a total exception for me. In anticipation of this book, I definitely was looking at other people's feelings towards it, people who already had read fan translations or who read it in its original language of Polish, and I heard kind of mixed things. I'd heard some people say that this one's really fun. I'd heard some people say it's not really their favorite. And for me, I actually really loved this one. I think it's fair to say that there are a lot of different elements in the Witcher series that certain people are going to like and certain people are going to dislike. For me, I always love when there's great banter between the characters, so anytime that Geralt and Dandelion are together, I absolutely love it. I shouldn't even say banter, it's more just very contrasting personalities, and Dandelion and Geralt are so much of opposites that when they're together, I always find it very entertaining. Definitely no exception here. I found this book to be at the top of my favorites in the Witcher series. For you guys that have read the series, my absolute favorite, I would say, I actually really love The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny. I love the collection of short stories, but as far as within the actual numbered series, I love Baptism of Fire. I loved seeing Regis and Dandelion and Zoltan and Geralt, and I loved all those characters together, and they're not all in this book, but the feeling of that particular one in the book, I would say, is very reminiscent in this one. However, because it's not actually an extension of the series itself, but it's more like its own really long short story, it feels like some of the short stories you find in The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny. It's also similar to those in that you are pretty much with Geralt the entire time. You do still get the other occasional viewpoint, and I feel like that's typical of Sapkowski's writing, even in the collection of short stories, but for the most part, you are following Geralt. I absolutely love multiple point of view stories, but when it comes to the Witcher books, anytime we go back to Geralt, I always get really excited, so to have this entire book be essentially from his point of view made me very happy. Also, for those of you that are fans of the Wild Hunt video game, I definitely think that a lot of this book felt like a quest. You know how sometimes in the Wild Hunt you'll get a quest and it doesn't seem like it's going to be that big of a quest, but then all of a sudden it just keeps going and it kind of branches out into other possible quests? That is almost exactly what this book felt like. It had multiple threads throughout what was happening. You were following Geralt going toward one thing, but then all of a sudden something else would come into play and he had to start dealing with that. And man, Geralt could not catch a break in this book. It was one bad thing after another. It definitely felt like as soon as something was being resolved and you would think like, how's this book gonna keep going for another 200 pages? Then all of a sudden something else came into the picture and Geralt had to start dealing with that. But what was nice is that kind of always made the book go along at a nice pace because there was always something pushing it forward. There was always something that Geralt had to deal with. And some of the things that Geralt had to deal with were, of course, monsters, which was fantastic because even though in the Witcher series, generally speaking, when you tell somebody about it, or at least when I do, I say it's about a monster hunter named Geralt, and you kind of, I think, are under the impression that there's going to be a lot of monster hunting, and there's not really. There's the occasional monster that shows up and Geralt has to kind of, use his knowledge as a Witcher to take it out. But this one really did feel like we were getting to see Geralt do his job more so than I would say in a lot of the actual series. I do think that there was a little bit less of the moral ambiguity that gets presented throughout a lot of the other books. We see a lot less often situations where Geralt's going to have to decide whether he sides with one group or the other. There was one plot thread though in this that really explored Geralt's particular code of honor. I think because this book came out after the rest of the series, it's kind of assumed that people are already familiar with Geralt as a character. They already kind of know how he is, and there was one particular thing that I think was explored in this book that I don't want to give away spoilers, but it really kind of drew a line in the sand and let us know what Geralt is willing to do for the sake of the safety of others. That said, because this particular book is kind of like one giant short story, it is a little bit difficult to pinpoint what the premise is for this one. It is kind of a combination of things, but to sum it up, Geralt kind of gets caught up in a lot of events that he's forced to be caught up in. He gets caught up with a lot of sorcerers and some sorceresses, and he gets caught up in some politics, and for those of you that know Geralt, you know he pretty much likes to stay away from that. But at the beginning of the book, his swords are stolen and he kind of has no means of protecting himself. He can't just go off wherever he wants. There is an arrest out for him and an investigation going on early on in the book, so to not look guilty, he can't exactly just up and leave. And even though he's innocent, his potential innocence is up for debate, and whether or not he's deemed innocent is kind of depending on how willing he is to cooperate with some people that are higher up. Overall, I would say if you're a fan of the Witcher series, definitely pick this book up because it's more of Witcher, and what Witcher fan doesn't want that? But specifically, if you really like the collections of short stories in The Last Wish and Sword of Destiny, and if you're like me and you love the humor and the camaraderie that's in Baptism of Fire, definitely pick this one up. It is so much fun. I absolutely loved it. That's it though. If you guys are also fans of the Witcher series and you've read Season of Storms, let me know what you thought of it. And if you haven't read Season of Storms but you're interested, I would definitely say give it a go. I really loved getting to see more of Geralt. That's it though. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.